And their new CEO is a technology guy. He's coming out of the technology section of the business, and they've got something they can pull together. But now, of course, the competition is much more entrenched and much more difficult to compete with. And who knows, right? About whether they'll succeed or not.
So when you
ultimately
look back,
they could run out of Moat.
When you look back at your decision making, well, how do you think about that? Do you see it as you made an error, or do you see it as these were unforeseen difficulties, or unable to foresee these difficulties?
Right. Well, the first thing is that there's no error in buying into a company that has a huge moat. That's right. If you can get it at the right price, that's where you always are looking for an opportunity. So the moat side of this was correct. The management side was an error. To a certain degree, you want a business that's simple enough that an idiot can run it, because someday an idiot will. This isn't to say Jenny Rometty is an idiot, but she is not a technology person. So in that sense, she just is in the wrong job. And you can see how powerful a moat is. I mean, she basically got nothing done in 10 years while the rest of the industry was outperforming them and becoming harder to compete with. And yet IBM is still profitable and still going forward and still a viable company. That's how powerful that moat is. So the moat part was right. The management decision was essentially, do I have a manager here that I really trust and admire? And the answer should have been no. That should have been the answer there. And so I created a story based on my understanding of IBM, what they were going to achieve. And I thought they would make the transition, because they've made the transition every other time in their 100-year history. So I thought, okay, they'll make this transition as well. They've got more patents than any other company in the world every year. They've got fabulous technology people, but the management was critical. And so my story was, I can understand this business. They've got a big moat. They've got I thought good management, and they're on sale. And I was wrong about the management team. And when I realized I was wrong about the management team, then the story had changed. Then it's time to exit. And I think Warren Buffett thought that too.
Were they really on sale?
At
Because
the
that
time,
sale price then would be based on your prediction that they're going to enter into cloud successfully, and
Right.
the stock price would go up. So that was how you sort of. So if that didn't happen, then they would no longer have been on sale, right?
Yeah. And so this is the reason why we buy companies with a big margin of safety. Is because if we're wrong about it or the story changes, then we are able to still get out without a loss. And in fact, I actually got out with a bit of a profit on IBM.
Oh, good job.
Well, it's the power of buying things on sale. It really is. Mm-hmm. And so even though I think I bought it around probably overall my basis was ballpark 130 to 140, which was the lower end of its price ranges for several years. It just never came out of that. And by the time I realized why it wasn't coming out of that and decided to exit, I could still exit. And in fact, it went up to about 180 and I got out on some good news that something was happening that was good.
Well, you were in good company, because Buffett also bought into IBM.
He did.
I don't know if it was around the same time, but it was close.
I think I was in a little earlier. And although I can't say for sure, I'm certainly influenced by Buffett. And Buffett getting out was a big moment. I thought, yeah.
Okay. That's one of those ones that I wasn't following at the time, but like looking back, knowing about that, that's one of the actions that he's taken that has stuck in my mind as a lesson from Buffett. That and the airline sale that he took this year. When you make a mistake, get out fast. Don't wait around. Acknowledge it. Don't have your ego involved. Just fully be like, oh, okay, got that one wrong. Get out. Don't wait around to like try to eke out some sort of magical situation. And that's been a huge lesson that I've learned from him.
Yep. And I that was really a good one too. We obviously were influenced by Buffett when he started buying into the airlines and had taken a pretty substantial position. When I say substantial position, you guys, what I mean is I'm in a range of 5 to 10% of the portfolio. and a really big position might go as high as 20%. So, the substantial position is like serious money on the line. And we saw this whole thing happening with Southwest Airlines and got out clean. Because again, we bought with a margin of safety. It went up, and then it came boiling down with this whole COVID thing started up, and we thought this is just not going to be good for the airlines, and so we got out. And it was gratifying to get notified that Buffett got out that quarter as well. And he didn't have to report it till the 13F filings, but he decided to report it early just because so many people look at what he's doing. So he was basically getting out at the same time that I was. And that's kind of gratifying just to see, okay, well, in 40 years of doing this, following the master, I'm at least getting some of the way he thinks into my head. And following that same basic set of principles leads you inevitably to the same basic actions at the same basic time. And so the principle here is when the story changes, obviously it could change in a good way, you might want to add more, but if it changes in a bad way to becoming something you wouldn't have bought, then you get out. It's just exit right now. Take the loss if there is one, but you just get out and you don't let the story slide along, right? It's a drift. You don't want this drift to happen to your investments where you're in it for a certain set of reasons following these 4 basic Charlie Munger steps. When one of them changes dramatically, then you'd really have to change your position dramatically, and you need to do it right now. What you don't want to do is start finding excuses for why it's okay to stay in. That always turns out badly in my experience.
What was the dramatic change in IBM that made you decide, okay, this is time for a change, time for a decision here?
Well, it didn't happen all at once, but it was pretty dramatic when I finally realized what was going on. What really triggered it for me was Jenny Rometty not making sense about what the company was trying to do.
So that really was like a moment for you of like,
that was a big moment.
Oh, interesting.
Because up to that point, I was like, what is the deal? They keep saying they're going to get better and better at this part of their new business, and they're not getting better and better. And other companies are getting better and better. And IBM isn't really telling us the hard truth. Jenny was not coming out and saying our competitors are doing better than we are. It was all salesmanship.
I
started to lose faith in that.
Yeah.
And so that's the story change. I went from management good to management bad. End of story. Out of here.
But had the numbers changed?
They were sliding along.
So
they just weren't getting where I was
expecting a rise in everything and success, and you weren't seeing that success.
No.
Got it.
And the price was sliding going sideways right with the numbers because it was such a cash cow. I mean, the reason they could buy so much stock back and pay $40 billion is because they were making like $15 billion a year cash flow. And, it's hard for me not to buy a $15 billion a year company when you can buy it for, effectively a 10 cap. And it's like, yeah, I want to own this. And it's got a huge moat. And I just had faith that they would find their way through this technology change, and they just haven't so far. And now it's up to Arvind Krishna. He's the new CEO. Yeah. He comes from technology. I don't know for sure that he's one of these incredible India Institute of Technology grads, but I wouldn't be surprised if he is. You guys, if you enjoyed this video and you feel it was valuable in teaching you more about how to invest, hit the like button and please share the video with your friends. And if you want more investing content, subscribe to my channel. And don't forget to click the button on the screen. We got a free gift for you. Thanks again for watching.